There you go.
Fab. Well, welcome, Simon. You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Looking forward to this. Should be fun.
Good. This is our cohort 10. So I think this is my
Brilliant.
first time meeting cohort 10 myself, actually. So hello, everyone. We're very, very early in our cohort 10 journey. So we're right at the beginning, pretty much, aren't we? So I think you're one of our first guest speakers, actually, to make an introduction to everyone. So what a
No pressure.
privilege. Um, so would you like to introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit about what it is that you do in your career history?
Yeah, let me give that a try. Hi, I am Simon Marshall. You can tell that anyway from my LinkedIn address. And at the moment, I run a marketing agency. We focus purely on working for law firms. I say that we try to focus purely on working for law firms, but other people insist on instructing us anyway and coming along and coming out the woodwork. But we really do kind of know the legal sector quite well. There's about 10 of us in total, and Joe and some of the other one of the cohorts sent along 3 people the other day as well. Came to our 6th birthday celebrations that we had last week. So yeah, I set the agency up before lockdown. 2020, and have been really lucky to benefit from lots of law firms wanting to do more digital marketing over the course of the last few years. And so we now, like I said, there's a group of 10 of us in total, and we do a range of different things for law firms, as it were. So broad law firm marketing, some digital marketing in there as well. Is it worth me telling people about what I used to do, Joe, and kind of a life before that and way back when? Is that okay if I do a bit of history?
Absolutely, yeah. Deep dive into it. It's great to know sort of where you've started and
Yeah.
what's led you to get to where you are now, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm 51 this year, so I'm not the youngest digital marketer on this call, right? And I came to digital marketing a bit later by virtue of the fact that, it didn't really exist and, for lots of the time that I was through my career. And earlier on, I worked I started out after university. I messed up my degree quite badly. I was studying law and languages, and I actually ended up working in Pizza Hut for a bit as a manager, and it was the making of me. Made me a really good kind of customer care person, looking after people, and dealing with loads of elements of the business as well. So things that I do today are very similar to things that I did then. Look after finances, look after people, make people happy, serve them well, so similar kind of stuff. But I decided I didn't want to be in retail forever, so I went into working for a translation agency for a bit, and I was in really hard-nosed kind of sales roles there. It wasn't always enjoyable, but I did it for quite a long time. It was really good fun. We were paid nothing. It was just awful in terms of pay, but I had a lovely gang of people that I worked with, and we would speak loads of languages every day and go and hang around with each other. It was a really fun time. You can imagine being in your kind of early 20s, as it were, and going and doing stuff like that with people from all around the world who worked together. So yeah, but that was my first taste of agency life. And that is a solid, 30 years ago almost, now something like that anyway, so a long time ago. And then I got asked by a boss of a friend of mine if I wanted to go and become a journalist instead. And it was about writing about lawyers, and this whole world sounded a bit bonkers, and why on earth would I want to do that? And so I went along for some interviews and then found out that what they wrote about every day was actually quite interesting. So I went to be a legal journalist for 3 or 4 years. And then I eventually moved over to law firm instead to do PR and marketing, Joe. So I went in initially to do public relations work, media relations work. And then over the course of the next 20 or so years, I've done a variety of different marketing roles, working for lawyers. So Leo is asking what's my agency called, which is a good question. It's called TBD Marketing Limited. And when I said that to someone a while ago, they said, well, why don't you tell me when you've named it properly? like that wasn't actually our name, right? But there is something in the name about the idea of being determined. That was the whole idea, and believing that you can change the future. So the future is to be determined. That was the idea behind the name, just why I called it that, right? Everyone's got this idea that everything's fixed. Everyone on this call is kind of setting out on a really interesting journey at the moment, aren't they? About what they're going to do over the next couple of years for their life. And I think you have to start out with the idea I get to say how it goes. I get to say what I'm going to get special in and how I'm going to train and what I'm going to specialize in and who I'm going to work for. And so, yeah, that was the idea. I did I not want to pursue a career as a solicitor? No, I'd started doing a legal degree and I did it with law and Spanish, French and Spanish as well. So there's lots of work. And I think it took me about 2 weeks to work out I wasn't going to be a lawyer. It was a 4-year course. And I was suddenly staring down the barrel of 3.5 years of doing the wrong course. It was terrible. But yeah, I had lots of fun with it still. It's much more fun marketing lawyers than it is being a lawyer. If you think about it, you're really interpreting all of that legalese for the real world. You're taking all of the words they say and then thinking, yeah, but real people need to understand you. So I've spent like 20 odd years kind of making that happen. There's some lovely comments going on there. Yeah, so Joe, and then I worked at a variety of different law firms throughout the city, American firms and big firms and regional firms. And, a lot of the challenges they face, Joe, are the same as each other. So they tend to be quite male dominated at the partners level, tend to be very wealthy people who work incredibly hard. And they're really good fun places to work for when you're on the agency side. And sometimes they're good to work for if you're kind of there as a lawyer. But I think it's a bit harder to survive at them if you want to go and work for them full stop. It's a certain phase of life I think you might go and give your life away to these guys for, as it were. So I work incredibly hard if you go and work for a law firm. Not going to lie, they are hardworking individuals, and the nature of the relationship I think is changing over the last few years for people like us who work in digital marketing. A few years ago, we would have been the kind of people that would just serve them all the time, Joe. But I mean, like, they would ask us to do something, and we'd have to do it. And that relationship is changing now. They take advice in a way that they wouldn't have done so a few years ago. So that's evolving. But when I left working for law firms, I just thought there must be some way of doing it better than this, right? There must be some way of resetting that relationship. And so TBD, the idea behind it was to have a much more kind of peer-and-peer conversation, me and the lawyer talking straight to each other. We've been really lucky, Joe, over the last 6 years. We haven't been lucky at all. We've made our own luck, right, Joe? We've built it by hiring the kind of people who can speak peer-to-peer with their clients, as it were. So if Sophie and my team is doing media relations work and she's speaking to a partner, they listen to her and they respect her. You met her last week anyway, right? She's lovely, but she's also very, very, very good at what she does. If she says, this is what you need to do to get onto the radio or television, then they listen to her advice because she delivers it with authority as well. And I was thinking ahead of today's call, about the kind of people on this call. I really would love you to, have that authority by the time you're finished with Basecamp, really, in your subject matter, and certainly gain it over the next couple of years to really think that I'm the expert on this. I know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm advising you as your digital marketing expert. And I found that goes a long way with people who are on the client side. Yeah, Joe, I don't know really. I mean, it's been a bit of a highs and lows, obviously, as owning an agency for the last 6 years. When I started out, I had, a load of good ideas and belief in myself. I started out as just me and doing some consulting work for people. And then over the course of the years, I've added more and more people and have evolved it into being a bit of an agency instead. But when it started out, it was just me finding work from people that I already knew in my network, asking for favors and, whatever it took to pay the mortgage, right? I mean, you just have to just hustle really at that point in time. And I didn't really have a plan, despite being a marketing person. Just set out with some ideas that I thought, yeah, we could serve some people a bit differently to how they've been served before. And one group, Joe, that we really started out with the first was, you met some of them in the room the other night, were female law firm founders. Over the course of the last 30 years, these incredibly intelligent women have been, and people from different ethnic backgrounds as well, doesn't matter which gender, have been kept out of the room where it happens. They don't get to make those decisions. And it's really annoyed me and didn't work for me. And so I vowed when I set up the agency that I would work for a lot of people in that position who had left those firms. They'd gone to set up their own firms instead. And that's been a real joy for the last 6 years, is watching some of those smaller businesses that we work for when we started out, doubling in size or quadrupling in size, and watching those businesses succeed and attract more, high-powered and highly intelligent women from the city to work for them as well. So yeah, that's been one of the things that we've stood by.
I think what you're doing in this sort of niche that you're in is, so I've never seen it before. I've never seen a law. Like speaking with the people at your event last week, it was really interesting to hear how marketing is now evolving in the law industry, and how, like you said before, it was very much a you need me more than I need you. And now the power of marketing in general is being appreciated a lot more. And that's not just in law, it's in a lot of other industries as well. And there's
I
very
think
much
it's in
more
every
demand
industry. I think it's in every industry. If you're interested in an industry and you're a digital marketing expert, so if you love swimming and digital marketing, go and niche in digital marketing about swimming. Really, right? Take two things that you love, look at that Ikigai diagram and really think about what you're trying to do. I love working for lawyers. If you look around you, everything you see is affected by the law. Everything. Every road that's built, every bridge that's built, every rule of the road, everything that's done everywhere has got the law through it. And I love the law for that. It's just influences everything. But I get that it's not everyone's passion. That's okay. I met a young man this week who's very passionate about accounting. That's not my passion, but it was good to hear that it's someone else's. Do you know what I mean? If you do digital marketing and something, another passion of yours, and combine those two things, you're the only person they're going to think of, right? When it comes to looking for that work, or maybe just a handful of people you go that they kind of the experts in the industry will look out for. As Ali's on the call there has just said, I got the same thing with engineering. Is that not something that you would think about then in terms of digital marketing and engineering, Ali?
No, I mean, it was a comment earlier. I think you mentioned you started a law degree and you said you didn't really enjoy it. So I did the same with engineering. I think yeah, 2 weeks in, I realized it wasn't for me, but I still, I still carried on. But then yeah, eventually when I graduated, I started my own business. Nothing to do with engineering at all. It's to do with clothing. So
Right. It's lovely. I'd love to be that much of a polymath. I'm not that good at too many things. You're lucky to have two or three things that you're good at. But like I say, if you take two of those ingredients, Joe, and really combine them together, if you're really good at digital marketing, or maybe one element of digital marketing, maybe you're really hot on social media analytics or paid or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can niche a bit in that and then do it in one industry or two industries. People will love you. They'll come looking for you. They'll know that you're the expert to go to as well. It makes a huge difference.
No, absolutely. I feel like even if you're not necessarily sure what you want to do within, if you don't want a specific niche within marketing or you're not sure, but a good place to start, like you say, is what do I enjoy outside of marketing? What am I really passionate about? What am I really interested in? And that can be where you start to develop that niche, and it all sort of comes naturally from that. So, and it's interesting actually, because I think I have more people in my circle that have done law degrees that have become really successful, but not within law,
Yeah.
but using some elements from that degree into their own other passions. So I think yeah, it's quite interesting actually that you say that you've been to and you've done it all and then kind of gone off and done something separate, because
I
that's
think it's okay. So maybe to Ali's point as well, right? Something attracted you to that industry in the first place. Maybe it's engineering for him, maybe it's like law for me. Maybe it's not for me to practice area. That's okay, right? But my passion for the law, it stems, Joe, from I was the chair of a jury when I was 18 years old, right? And I thought I knew it all. I thought I was like, some big hotshot for deciding somebody's future about whether they were going to go to jail or not. I just had a really, decent few weeks trial on something. I thought I want to do this for a living. And then I went and engaged with the study of law and thought, well, I don't want to do this. This is just awful. But it's okay to be still enamored with the subject matter, right? I mean, I still love lawyers, and loads of my friends are lawyers and my clients are all lawyers, and they've paid my mortgage for the last 20 years, right? So I do care for them, but I just don't want to be a lawyer. That's okay as well. And I say to them, well, why don't I make you more successful? Fundamentally, everyone on this call through digital marketing is trying to make other people more successful at something. They're either trying to make them more money, more popular, or both, right? Or more influential, maybe as well, right? That really comes down to it. Digital marketing is about those things. It's a form of marketing. And the only things that we can do for other people are give them a bigger network, make them more money, make them more profitable, give them more power, give them more access. Do you know what I mean? Those are the things we come down to. So who was it that just said, Nicola just said, I like to do it with sustainable environmental startups. I mean, absolutely brilliant. They need your help. They definitely need your help. They need access to funding. They need ways to get into their networks. They need to be front of mind with people who are doing stuff. And the way, if you think about it, if you go out and you show that you're interested to those people and ask them what their challenges are, what are you struggling with? Are you attracting enough clients? Do you have enough funding? You know, whatever it might be. And then you say, how can digital marketing support you achieving that end? Joe, that's all we've done for 6 years. We say to people, okay, tell me what your challenge is. And then we listen to them for 8 and more than today is talking, but normally it's listening, right? And then we say, how can we help with that? And just ask people that question. And then they tell you, where's it not working at the moment? You say to them, and then they tell you, and you go, right, fine, I'll help you solve it. And that's it. That's all anybody wants, Joe, isn't it? Is to sleep at night, not worry about their business. Think that they've got somebody who's on their side who's going to help them out as an expert. You know, and for most people, digital marketing is a foreign language. They don't know. They know they need to do something about it, but they don't know what to do. And then you come along and say, I'm interested both in your subject matter, environmental and sustainable kind of startups, and I know how to do digital marketing. They're like, oh, thank the Lord, you know, brilliant.
No, it definitely, it takes a village, doesn't it, really, to build a successful business. And it's,
Yeah, do you know, one of the things that it requires as well is you've got to go and hang out where they're hanging out. It's so tempting to go and hang out with other digital marketers all the time. You've got to do a bit of that, right? It's okay to do some of that. I hang around with marketers sometimes, but 9 times out of 10, I'll be hanging around with the client, wherever they are. So I'm probably the only marketer in the room. And I'd love you to think about that as well. When you go to that, it's okay when you're starting out to hang around with your colleagues and mates and, you know, alumni from this group and whatever. I think it's really important to have that support network. But I think you've also got to get out there, and if the clients are all at this event somewhere down the road, go to it. Even if the subject matter isn't your subject matter, it doesn't matter. During the break, somebody will ask you, what do you do? And you go, I do digital marketing for your area. That's it. You're the most interesting person they're going to meet that day, because everyone else is talking about their day job. They already know that day job.
absolutely.
That makes sense, Joe.
Yeah, no,
You're a much better networker than I am, Joe. So I don't know why I'm giving you any advice. For goodness sake, all of you should have seen her work the run the other day, where she was like basically going around and introducing the Basecamp people. It was the idea, right? I said, come and meet some of the clients to see if they've got some people they need to take on. And Joe was basically working the room, going around like this in a circle. It was wonderful to see.
I was not traveling down to London for nothing.
No, and isn't that it though? I mean, we get places and get frozen. You know, we get worried about it, and we think, oh, but everyone's there for a reason. They're for the same reason. Got to meet other people, got motivations behind it. When you're networking, you've got to just say, okay, what am I here to achieve? Who am I here to meet? What am I trying to do? And if you're given the opportunity, yeah, grab it.
It was
Should I give you a couple of tips on that, Joe? What I would do if that's the case, right? So if I walk into an event, Joe, and there's somebody there who's doing the register, maybe it's, you know, one of you guys from Basecamp, maybe it's someone else, right? I always go to them and go, can I have a look at the list? I look down and I go, I'm going to go and stand over there. Please, can you bring me these 3 or 4 people as they arrive? And they do it. And that person walks into the room and suddenly they're not alone and they've got a buddy in the room and somebody wants to speak to them. And it makes a huge difference to people's experience of events. So if you're out networking, don't be afraid to get the events team to give you a hand and introduce you to people as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely vouch for that, because you introduced, so Simon introduced myself and the learners to the whole room, of which then we had Matt and Gemma then come and approach me and to speak with the client with the learners. So that introduction's been brilliant, actually. So thank you for that. But yeah, no, definitely being involved with the events team, and also when you're at those events, I think it can be easy just to kind of not appreciate the people who are running the event, and to just keep working with the people who are attending the event. But actually, you could, yeah, as you say, you could be missing out on people that you might be needing to be introduced to. So yeah, definitely making friends with the people who are running that event can be really, really useful. We've got loads of comments in the
I'll answer a few of them. My idea. So Danielle, I've heard of Laura's Law, but I don't work with those guys. So no. I'm sorry. If there's anything I need to know, Danielle, then either DM me. If there's something I need to know, that's fine. But or if there's something specific you want to ask, then feel free to ask it. Don't know. Judy Marie, if you go for a niche, might you then end up in competition with yourself? So the reason it's a really good question. So I think there are 2 things going on there. The reason to niche is, you know, if I think of digital skills and a networking person who's going to introduce me to students, I think of Jo Dennison immediately, right? That's who I think of. So it's digital marketing plus, has a great network and networking skills, right? And when she's not in the room, I say to my friends who are, CMOs at law firms, oh, you should meet Jo Dennison because she's really easy to introduce her because she's got this niche. And I say she's the only networker in digital marketing skills that I know, but she's really good. And I think the benefit of niching is actually not for you, and it is for the client, but it's actually even more for the people you've never yet met. And it's actually the second degree connections. And if you can be really laser focused on what you do, Simon Marshall does law firm marketing, and that is it, right? Then it's easy. You guys, after today's call, be like, I know a guy in law firm marketing. It was called Simon, I think. Do you know what I mean? Right. And that's it. You'll be able to remember me. And if I give you some other messages afterwards as well, in terms of what we do, who we work for, maybe niche it a bit, we only act for top 100 law firms. Just makes it easier, Joe, for other people to say, I don't think this is one for Si, it's too small, or I think this is exactly in his sweet spot. And I think all of you on this call will have that sweet spot. You've got to spend a little bit of time identifying what it is, or spend some time over the next couple of years as you're getting into this role, creating one. So if you're learning, deeper on paid social as opposed to email marketing, great. That's going to go, both of those, by the way, are going to be around for years to come, and you're absolutely fine. But get really good at one of those niches and then do it in a certain industry. And suddenly I think it's very easy to sell yourself and be sold by others. Mo says it's, I commend those who study law. They're built different. I don't disagree with that. They're not always the easiest types, Mo. I'm not going to lie to you. Lawyers can be, challenging types to deal with at times. They're never shy of an opinion. They're born to litigate, right?
Yeah, my family regularly tell me I should be a lawyer.
What characteristics is it that they're highlighting, Mo, do you think? Is it your tenacity? Your
I'm just
hard work?
very, I always have an opinion and it's always right.
Loud and clear. See, suddenly legal marketing isn't such a bad idea, is it? Did I do marketing for lawyers as a sole trade before setting up the agency, or did I go straight into the agency model? From Emma? That's such a good question. I'm glad you asked that. No, I set up on my own at first. I mean, I clearly had a bit of a network from days gone by, and for those first couple of years, I was just working on my own and pulling in a little bit of extra talent here and there where I needed someone to draft things for me. It's really hard in those first couple of years if you're doing things that way, but I wouldn't change it. I'm glad that I did that, but nowadays I tend to do less of the doing. It's still 50% of my week, but then it was about 125% of my week. So yeah, I think going in as a sole trader is good for you. They know what they're buying, who they're buying, and they know whether or not you've done what you said you were going to do as well immediately. I think for digital marketers, it's a great way into the market. If you're not feeling the chemistry with your clients as well, you can just say, look, I don't think this is working, and then you can kind of relinquish that client relationship. And I think that's a really healthy way to run your life.
But with all your branding, like around your own brand as you as a person, so like, do you have
I'm
the same
so
name
glad
for your
you asked
business?
that.
Or?
No, I'd set it up to have a corporate brand initially, and I'm glad I did because it served us well 6 years later, and I've got to change it. But I can see why other people go down the personal branding route, and I think you could consider doing that as well. It just depends, what you intend to do, after a period of time. If you end up wanting to build an agency, I would start out as an agency and then go from there. But if you're thinking I'm mainly going to do this on the back of my own name, there's nothing wrong with that as well. And I think it works quite well. It's just a bit harder to then sell it. If it was called Simon Marshall Legal Marketing or something later on, then I think it's a bit harder to scale it later. That's the difference.
Yeah. So would you sort of set it up, sort of look like an agency, even though it was just you, and maybe you were like taking on other freelancers to support you, but if you haven't got much of a budget to start with?
That is a very good question. So I was just really clear as to who they were buying. I say, yeah, it's the agency's name, but it's me that you're buying to do this work. Or if it's an agency name, but it's me that you're getting to kind of win the work and spend time with you and think about the strategy, but actually the execution is going to be down to this person. Again, I'd be very clear about it and just very honest about it. And I think that people will be, the phrase bait and switch. They'll know if you're kidding them. If they're saying, okay, I'm going to give you this person, actually you're going to swap them out for someone else, that you'll get quickly found out, and that relationship will die quite quickly as well. Everything we do in what we do is based on trust. you know, in the legal sector, but also in digital marketing as well. And I think that, you know, the kind of people who are going to give you access to their Google Analytics and their Search Console and their other social media accounts want to know that they can trust you. And so I think you just have to be really straight about it, even if it means that's not what they want. And they just say, well, we can't work with you then because we need more than one individual. Fine, you'll lose the odd client as a result of it. You will do, right? And that's okay, because it just opens up the space to find another one instead. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, so sort of stick to what you're able to do, capable of doing, then sort of build up gradually, like sort of
Exactly.
with integrity, really.
It's that,
around.
and it's that, and then I think you've got to kind of revisit that sweet spot again and again. So my sweet spot's changed over the last few years. Originally, it was me doing this, and then it was my team doing this, and me kind of winning it. And now it's actually my team do it first and foremost, and they bring me in to do strategy and other things. So I moved. It sounds a bit weird. I'm still in the agency, but I moved out of a role a while ago, and I now consult back into the agency to free me up a bit as well. But I think if you keep an eye on where your sweet spot is and how it's evolving, and maybe what took me 6 years, you guys might do it in a year. I don't know. It's quite possible, isn't it? I mean, other people scale things very quickly, but I think you've got to keep your eye on what that sweet spot is and who that's useful for, which clients it's useful for, and then keep selling it to people as well.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
I hope it is. Emma, drop me a line if you've got any other questions on that as well. I don't know everything at all, but I think it's good to at least ask yourself those difficult questions. And Emma, I paid someone some money last year to ask me some really difficult questions, and it's the single most difficult dinner I've ever had in my life. I was sat there in the right mood. She was basically telling me how to run my agency better, and I disagreed with absolutely everything she'd said. And I sulked about it all the way home from Birmingham. And I was in a really bad mood for about 3 days. And then I spent the next 6 months doing every single thing she told me to do. And then
Yeah, it's hard to hear the truth sometimes if you're not ready to hear it.
absolutely, I wasn't ready. And then a few weeks ago, I thought I've got no integrity here. I haven't thanked her. And so I sent her a bunch of flowers and I said, I know it wasn't comfortable at the time. I can only apologize for how I behaved. I wasn't an a-hole, but I was a bit difficult, right? And then I said to her, it's not good enough and it's not in keeping with how I run my business. So I want to say thank you. So we sent her a voucher and sent her some flowers and said thank you as well. I think if you find people in life who have invested in your outcome as much as you are, but don't have any skin in the game, like keep those people close. If you've got a friend that will tap you on the shoulder and saying you're being an idiot, or you need to grow, or I think you've overstretched yourself here, I mean, keep those people close, right? They're worth their weight in gold. You won't want to go out drinking with them every night, but they're gonna it's not always comfortable like company, but I think they're really useful for people like who own agencies, who are all about forward momentum as well. Nicola, I don't know who the Lincoln Lawyer is. I should know. Is that a TV show or something?
I think it's a film, isn't it?
I think that's right. It's not a John Grisham book, is it?
This series on at the moment, Lincoln Lawyer.
So we need to
Very
know.
good.
I don't watch TV shows about lawyers.
No, I don't want to do that.
The reason being, I spend enough of my life, Joe, with lawyers. I don't need to sit on the sofa with my wife watching lawyer-based legal dramas in the evening. No,
It's saying anyway, you know. That's it. Yeah.
Good. Juliana, you've got a question?
Hi, Simon.
Hey.
So my question was, do you outsource certain tasks abroad to free up your time? So, for example, places like South Africa or Philippines, where the English is pretty good, I'd say, and the currency is weaker. So you're saving money instead of paying someone here in the UK. And if so, what type of task would it be? Just admin, or would you find marketing professionals abroad that could be just as qualified?
Yeah, I love that. What a brilliant question as well, right? And it's been on my mind this weekend. I've been thinking about it. So my greatest outsourcing was to give over the admin of things to a woman called Gemma. And I did it about after a year or so of setting up the business. And she and I didn't meet each other, Joe, for the first 3 years of working with each other, right? So I didn't meet Gemma face to face. And she's got my bank details, she's got my passport, she's got everything, right? She knows everything about me. And Juliana, I would say that she probably does most of the agency day-to-day running nowadays. She just gets on. So the party that Joe came to the other day, I just said, here's the venue, and that was it. And they did everything else themselves, right? Juliana, that's how much I trust her. So she's in North Wales, so I know she doesn't count for what you're talking about, but I think that level of trust. Now, no one works in the same city as me in my team, none of them. So there's Bristol, Conway, we've got Yorkshire, Glasgow, there's one in Greenwich, one in an imaginary county called Lincolnshire. I don't know, they're spread all over the place, these guys, right? And they all kind of dial in and do whatever. And then we meet up in London every now and then. Now, we could save money if we went abroad and went to some of those people. And I've thought about it long and hard, but it's really, really hard to make sure that the quality remains as high, Juliana, as I want it to be. And I think that some small mistakes that lawyers pick up on would immediately denigrate from that hourly rate that we would charge them otherwise. So it's a really good question. But if I chose a Safa or someone from, I don't know, India, who's an English speaker, to do that job, Americanisms would creep in, or some other kind of localized version of English would give us away to the lawyer that it wasn't done by a native Brit. And with lawyers,
That's
they
true.
are absolutely unforgiving of any of that stuff, right? It has to go through proofreading and controls before it goes out the door as well. So it's a good question. Now, the one exception to that I've been thinking about recently, Juliana, was we do some bids work for lawyers. If they send us a bid, they say this bid is due in 24 hours. Well, look, I don't want to be staying up beyond midnight to work on that thing. And if I can give that to someone who's in Australia and say, take this for 8 hours, and then you wake up at 8 a.m. and it's majority done, well, why wouldn't I do that? So actually, I actually have started having those conversations with people. I haven't found anyone yet that's at the right hourly rate to do it. But Juliana, I think if my next hire would probably either be in Los Angeles or they would be in Australia, one of the two, most likely.
Oh wow. Can I quickly ask you, Simon? Sorry. And what sort of I forgot what they're called. You know those the tools. So where you're outsourcing, where you've got people working from home, a tool where you can kind of monitor, you know, what the
Like a
task, you know,
project
they have to
management tool?
download it. Sorry?
Do you mean like a project management tool?
Yeah, like a tool where you can see how productive they're being. I can't remember what they're called. I think they
Well,
download
so I
it.
should say that, right? We've got a task allocation tool, which is Asana. Most people use either Asana or
Yeah.
Monday.com or things like that as well. But here's what I
Yeah.
do. I employ incredibly intelligent people, and then I say to them, I'm going to trust you to do your job. And most of them haven't had that experience of work. They've had an experience of work, which is I'm going to be, you know, monitored and people are going to tell me, no, right? My team bring the best selves to that hour, every hour of their work. Why? Some of them are freelancers and they just do it to a high standard because they know I pay them, by the way, about 25% above the market rate for a simple reason. I just want you to do your best work for me every single day, every single hour, every single day. So Sophie and I, I'm sure she won't mind me telling you, she does 27 hours a week of billable time for us. That's it. She wants a life outside of that. To do that 27 hours, she needs the other 10 hours a week just to kind of manage that. But she contains it within a box of that's how I'm going to run my life. Now, if you need to pay your mortgage and pay for your car and all those other things out of 27 hours, you better be earning a premium rate. To earn a premium rate, you've got to do good work. And so she would never, ever like outsource her work to anyone else or doing that. I'll know if it's her or not immediately. So yeah, Juliana, I'm so glad that you asked the question. I think you can, this group, what's interesting is that you can white label things for bigger agencies, and that's a really good way into getting experience in the industry. But in terms of delegating work away, I think you always got to be careful about, I wouldn't take on something that we couldn't deliver ourselves if we had to stay up late at night and get it done. Do you know what I mean? We don't overstretch, Juliana, because I think there's a trust issue there with the client base as well.
Yeah. And Simon, just very quickly, just the last one. So you'd be happier perhaps charging a more premium rate to your lawyers, which I'm sure they can afford it, rather than, because obviously if you outsource, you know, these companies, these entrepreneurs, when they outsource to like Philippines and places like that, they can afford to drop their prices a little bit.
Yeah, Juliana,
But
I live in
obviously
a
if you're
nice part
keeping
of
everything
town,
UK
right?
based, you push the price up, won't you? Sorry, what was that?
So I live in a nice part of town, and the reason I have to work with lawyers is because they can afford me, right? If we were accountants, you know, it wouldn't be quite as nice as it was. So I didn't choose my niche by accident. I chose it for people who've got money, right?
Yeah.
Which I think,
brilliant. Thanks, Simon.
which goes to Adam's question here as well. Like, would you be careful in choosing your niche based on them, how much money they've got to spend in this, that as well? And I think there's some truth in that. I think whilst you're learning your trade and learning what to do, I think it's important to just get the experience you can do. Juliana, I was asked to do some, unbelievably, I was asked to do some digital marketing work in fashion a while ago, and I thought, well, I'll go and give it a try for a startup. And after a few weeks, I thought, I just can't do this. This is not my world, and I can't charge my rates I want to charge, and I don't know a darn thing about fashion, right? So I thought, what am I doing here? And I quickly got found. I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back to my niche instead. So Adam, yeah, choose it based on the money they've got to be willing to spend, but you'd be surprised how much people are willing to spend. I mean, some of the big spenders on digital marketing are like personal injury lawyers, divorce lawyers. They're the ones with all the massive budgets because they bring in loads of digi spend. Everyone assumes it's always consumer, but consumers, you know, it's just it's a different world, really. Not my thing. Question. So, I think Rachel was first. Is that right?
Hi,
Hey,
Simon. Yeah,
Rachel,
thank
how you
you.
doing?
I'm good, thank you. My husband's a lawyer, solicitor. We call him
I'm
solicitor
sorry
lawyer.
to hear
So
that,
yeah,
Rachel.
he
Yeah.
left. Yeah, he left private practice because he wanted to get out of the bear pit. He still is a solicitor, but anyway,
Do you work
what-
in-house?
what's that?
Do you work in-house?
No, he does a little bit of in-house just for friends that have got their own businesses. He does adjudicating actually now.
Does he? What a brilliant.
Yeah.
I was talking about it earlier on today with another client.
Yeah,
Amazing. So
yeah,
adjudication, for the rest of you, is a type. If you can imagine, there's courts which are really hard to get to. Adjudication is a different type of dispute resolution, and it allows
yeah,
people in
dispute
the
resolution.
construction
Yeah.
industry who are trying to build something together. Then they have an argument, and it allows them to quickly resolve the argument and carry on building the building. That is what adjudication is for.
Yeah, anyway, my question, not relating to any of that, is actually about the digital marketing. I'm doing a project for a charity, service-based charity,
Right.
and I'm trying to understand like what are the most effective digital channels. So I guess, you know, lawyers, it's a service-based as well. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
what you thought about digital channels, what's most effective.
Mm.
You know, nowadays there's so much choice. You know, if you're investing a small amount of funds, where do you throw your money?
Yeah. I'm
Websites,
really glad that you
email
asked that.
marketing.
And the first thing to do is, and I don't say this lightly, right? I literally run data-led and data-informed surveys. The first thing to do is disregard my opinion immediately. It doesn't matter what I'm about to say to you. The only thing that matters is what the data tells us, right? So try two things and then put your efforts behind the thing that's working versus the thing that's not. I really, really, really mean that, right? If you've got a good advert and you put it down two different channels and one channel works, and I mean, lawyers are like, it's got to be LinkedIn. It must be LinkedIn. I'm like, what if it's Facebook? And they're like, no, it can't possibly be Facebook. And I don't use Facebook. And I'm like, you're not the client. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what you think about it. So I just want you, let's be really careful as digital marketers. Let's take our opinions out of it from there. Facebook is still the second most visited website in the world. That's not by accident. And there are parts of the world where it's the main trading platform for lots of businesses as well. It's like eBay in places and whatever. So Rachel, I just want to say, whatever you're up to, try it three or four different ways,
yeah,
and then back the thing. But don't spend any money until you have to, is my other tip, right? So you've got an army, a charity. If you think about it, you've got loads of employees who are values aligned. They believe in what you're doing as that outcome, unless it's that charity that was in the news this morning in Leeds that was the UK's worst employer. But
no,
I think if you go and look into it, you'll find that those people are willing to tell the story on your behalf. So, you know, if it's Cancer UK, I signed up to do a 100-mile walk in May for them yesterday, and the digital experience was incredible. Like they'd done it really, really cleverly. But where did I hear about it? On the radio or on TV. And I think, you know, trying a mixture of those different things and realizing, Rachel, you know, your funnel elements, like
Yeah.
what is the top of the funnel? What's going to bring the biggest possible audience for free? That's probably
Yeah.
PR, right? We know that's the case. And then we drill down from there, don't we? But don't put any budget behind anything until you already know it's going to work, I would suggest.
yeah, so
So,
testing the things.
yeah. Does that answer the question? I think it
does.
helps a bit. I mean, charities, they're just businesses with a different model. Really,
Yeah.
I mean, fundamentally, what have we got to do that's different? We've got to get an audience to do something. Either they've got to engage with something, sign something, buy something, donate. That's no difference to buying it, subscribing to it, or, you know, being served. It's no difference. What we pretend is, oh, you know, it has to be different. I've done some charity work recently, and we did a huge pro bono project, and my commercial view to them is like, this is what you need to do commercially. The only issue, it tends to be with the client thinking, we don't want to be commercial. And you're like, well, you're not going to survive unless you're a bit more commercial about this. But what would you do if it were your money? Where would you put this £5,000 of ad spend? And they're like, okay. Do you know what I mean? That's how I view it, Rachel. One tip for all of you, by the way, if you're ever doing paid social, we talk about this on some training we do. Don't ever boost a post until you've let it do the organic work first. So if you issue a post, leave it 24 hours, then boost it.
I was just going to ask Simon, I did read though that Facebook are making it more and more and more difficult now for any organic post to do well because they're trying to force everyone down the boost, because that's actually part of my strategy, is to
So
use
the-
Facebook
I
more
will
like
send you a case study
Mm.
that we did for the 100. So, trigger warning, this is going to be about suicide. That I'm about to talk about this thing here, so just thought I'd mention it as well. I did a campaign last year, pro bono, did it for free, and we put £20,000 worth of work behind this campaign, where we wanted to change the law so that universities have to answer for their students, right, in relation to mental well-being, because we lost 100 students a year to suicide, right? And Rachel, we thought, okay, we've got to get everyone to sign up to this change.org petition. And they had 28,000 signatures and we needed 100,000 to have it heard in Parliament. And I thought, I would just use the broadcast media. And we got onto Channel 4, BBC, we got onto everything. It was huge. Sophie and my team did all the work. And you know what? We got 7,000 additional signatures, Rachel. It was minimal, it was nothing. And I was on this call like this, like with all the youngsters and all the digital marketers about 2 days later. And I was virtually in tears. I was so upset. All this effort we put into this huge crescendo of media coverage. And I said, all of this needs to stop now. Here's what needs to happen next. We've got to have 2 deeply personal stories go out there from parents talking about what it feels like to be in this situation. One of them did it on Facebook. One of them did it on Twitter. The one on Twitter was the less successful and only had 1 million impressions. And the one on Facebook had 27,000 shares, reshares. It's bonkers. It went to, most of the country must have seen it that week. But Rachel, the PR bit was like, there's an issue. But this Facebook issue was, this is my son. This is what it happened to me. And it was so deeply personal. It doesn't matter what charity you're working for. There will be some personal story about the difference they're trying to make. And that's the thing that sells. But you've got to have both. You've got to have awareness and then action, as it were, together. Anyway, there you go. A bit of what it's like to work with me as a consultant for a minute. Aya, you've got your hand up as well. How you doing?
Hi Simon, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to meet
Thanks
you.
for being here. Good to meet you too. I'm sure everyone feels the same. Like Juliana said, so many light bulb moments. So thanks for that.
That's good.
So my question is, could you discuss the aspects involved in digital marketing for law firms? What kind of differentiates that particular niche, and also what are the kind of common aspects in the business?
Yeah, so B2B and B2C are a lot more similar than people think they are, right? I mean, you're still selling people fundamentally, or the big difference is that the product is the person. So if you're B2C and you're trying to sell like a lipstick or whatever it might be, or a widget on Instagram, the amount of stuff that I get targeted at me there, by the way, it's ridiculous. But otherwise the people are the product. So the big difference, Aya, is rather than using the corporate channels, which we do for product marketing on Instagram, we have to use personal channels on LinkedIn, because it's me they're buying, Simon or Sophie or Matt in my team, or it's Florence, who's an employment lawyer, or Andrew, who's a personal injury lawyer, right? It's the people they're buying. And if they front it up and try and go down the corporate route instead and do it through the company page, it will go nowhere, right? Those channels. Why? For lots of reasons. One, no one who is the audience of that channel really cares about that brand. Not really. They care about the person. They care about Andrew or Florence or me or whoever it might be. So that's one big difference, I'd say, is you have to you have to double down on the personal route when you're selling your area. Another thing is, look, if you're going to go through.
Does that involve, so sorry to cut you off, like outreach, basically? A lot of it is kind of outreach to specific people?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're starting to see, do you mean like for influencers, like going out to people? Or do you mean media, or how do you mean it?
I mean, you said kind of it's more personal, so you kind of
I meant you've got to use your personal channel, right? So if you're on LinkedIn, you've got to show up as the expert in that area. So let's say you want to buy a house, right? That's a needs-based issue, isn't it? You want to buy a house, you need a solicitor. And what I'm doing as solicitor is I show up on your feed all the time. I sell houses or buy houses for people every day, right? That's who you show up as. And then Aya's in your audience and she spots you and thinks, oh yeah, it's Simon that I need to get in touch with.
Okay.
Right? Some of them that's called needs-based marketing. The other one is the other way around. It's actually role-based marketing. Maybe there's somebody whose job it is to do that thing all the time. So it could be that they look after real estate for a company, and you can go and comment on all of their posts. You don't ever need to post. You just go and comment on their posts all the time and send them DMs all the time. So the strategy depends on whether you want an inbound or an outbound strategy for your marketing more broadly. Channels, there is no one answer for law firms. They're all different. Some people, the wealthy hang around in different places. Some people who are real estate, hang out in private WhatsApp groups. You've just got to find where your audience is. What I really want to say to you, Ira, is just be curious. Like, where are you hanging around? Where are you spending your time? We've all got like a golden hour of a day, haven't we, that we're spending somewhere. Some of us waste it scrolling through doom scrolling through Instagram. What are those other people doing? What are they doing with that hour? Where are they? Are they on BBC News, or are they on a niche title, or are they doing something? Wherever they're hanging out, all of them, go and find them and go and be wherever they are. That's my advice to you. So I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups that I just can't believe I've got into, right? But how do you get into those groups? You just ask people, where are you hanging out? What are you doing? Like, can you get me an invitation? And just go and hang out in those groups.
Cool. Okay.
I don't know if there's any more. There's loads more to B2B marketing, but that's a quick view from my desk, as it were, as well.
No, that's perfect. Thanks so much, Simon.
Mo, you've got a question. You got your hand up.
Hello. What was my question? Oh yeah. How do you work out what your rate is for people?
So this
Is
is really
there any
simple. This is really
resource-
simple, right? What you do is you choose a figure and you send it to someone and they say yes, and the next time you put it up, right, to the next person, and then you keep doing that until someone says no, right? And then you found probably a good benchmark for where your rate should be. And I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I've been trying that.
Just do it. And if the answer is no, there is a few tips here on pricing. If the answer is no, it's not no for everyone. It's just no for that person at that point in time. If you get 2 or 3 no's, that's a solid no, right? You've gone too high. Or your messaging is not strong enough, or you haven't backed up the rationale why it's you, Mo, to use rather than me or one of the guys in my team. Our hourly rates are so ridiculously high nowadays.
I
I
don't
can't
work
even
on
tell you.
hourly, I only work on a day rate.
Yeah, I mean, but what does it look like to the client? It looks like price certainty. I know how much Mo's going to cost. I know what I'm going to get from her during the course of that day. That's great. People think they want a cheap hourly rate. They don't. They want certainty. I want to know it's going to cost. Forgive me, I don't know what your rate is, but 500, 800, whatever it might be, right? 2,000. I don't know what your rate is, right? But they want to know how much it's going to cost them and what they're going to get out for that money. And that if you then, here's the thing: if they go down the road and they come back to you and say, "Well, that person said they can do it cheaper for you than you need to know it's not time to drop your price." Here's why. When they come back to you and say that person can do it for 300 and you said you're 400, you say, great, in which case you should use them for 300, but my price is 400, and stick with your price. And here's why: they've already chosen they want to work with you, but they're looking around for a better price. So you just hold your nerve and they'll come back to you.
Okay.
It's a game of poker. It's a really awful game of poker. My other tip to you, Mo, is if you own an agency or you're a freelancer and doing this work, if you price yourself so that you're willing to lose 1 in 2 jobs, you'll be okay. All right. So, if I think about Gemma, who's one of my clients I was speaking to the other day, I go out of my way to be helpful to her all the time, off the clock. Like, I ring her up, hey, I was thinking about this, or I spotted this, or this is an issue, or can I have I'm always thinking about her. So that when she is paying me on the hour, she feels like she's got this incredible value all the time. And she goes and recommends me to everyone else as well. But when I bid for her work, we had another client at the same time. We lost that piece of work. It wasn't a small amount piece of work, right? It's a lot of money. But I was willing to lose it because we had 2 on the go at the same time. And that's my is probably have twice as many BD opportunities and then keep your price twice as high as you feel comfortable. There's a lovely, no, I'm going to change that word. There's a really informative person called Vanessa Ugatti who does pricing. Go and have a look at her website. And she's not perfect on it, but go and have a look at her website and she'll give you some ideas on how to price yourself. It should make you feel a bit uncomfortable.
I think for me, it's the what's it called when you have that you don't trust in yourself for the price.
Imposter syndrome, yeah. So I've got it too. So what my big trick was a few years ago, I gave away my pricing. I don't touch pricing ever. I'm a people pleaser, Mo, right? I want to do everything that you ask me to do. So I'm going to make you, Mo, want to instruct me. I've got to work with this guy. It's like a religion almost. And then I say, go and speak to Gemma. She'll sort out the pricing. And they've got to deal with somebody who has no interest in discounting the price, but it's not me. But they've already decided. I want Mo. It's Mo I want here. So if you could do anything with an admin or a PA externally, get them to run your pricing, and it will pay itself back within a week. I promise you, because they have no interest in bowing down to their nonsense. On you just say she doesn't negotiate on price. She's busy. She's only got so many hours in a week. This is her price. If you don't want her, that's fine. This is our proposal.
Okay, thank you. Very helpful.
Always drop me a line about that anyway. Go on, Juliana, you've got another question. And then I think I've only got 34 other
Oh,
questions.
Simon, I'm loving this. Right. Yeah, no, that's brilliant what you've said. The pricing thing was, whoa, like bold moments for me. I've got just a couple of quick questions. Now, I'm going to be launching an online language school in a few months, okay?
Wonderful.
I've got an idea what I'm going to charge and whatever, but I'm going to be targeting corporate at some point.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just trying to work out, I know I can charge them a lot more, but how much more? And the thing is, when I go to the competitors, I can't get that information, how much they're charging, unless I've got like a business with an HR. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to find a way to get information from them, but I don't know, like whether it's 40% more or.
You know, it's not, there's no hard and fast stuff to this as well. It's a sliding scale, right? You're going to have to, I think the first thing I would do,
I'm
and I was really
snooping
lucky,
around, but
I think you have to land one piece of work first and say to them, I will give you a bit of a discount on this if you give me a testimonial at the back end of it, right? And then go and milk that testimonial because that if they've got a decent brand and they've got a good name, that will walk you through the door for everyone else, or it'll make it a lot, or just use them as a referee. That's going to make it a lot easier.
yeah,
The
that's
other thing
my
Juliana
little
do
plan, yeah.
is just have Mo ring them up for you and find out what their prices are. So she has to ring them up and do a secret squirrel call and say, hey, I'm interested in some online training courses in language for my guys here. What's your pricing? And then she goes and finds out for you. And then you can return her the favor by doing the pricing on her job for her later on and say, you can hold fast Juliana on her rate and say, no, we don't discount for Mo. That's how much she costs. Deal with it.
Yeah, because I need to have things I've got to fill out an online form. I've got to have an actual legit company, and do you know what I mean? So I can't even use my Hotmail, and I'm just trying to find a way to get a demo so that I can get that information to give me an idea.
The reality is you're going to find out by doing what I said earlier. Price it, you'll win one, and then the next time you think I'm going to price it a bit higher. If they're not negotiating with you, then you've priced it too low, right? If you've priced it too high, then they might just walk away as well. But anyway.
Okay. And what would you recommend
what
to
would I
read?
recommend in terms of what?
Yeah, that's that's a really good book to read. That will give us a lot of information on a lot of this.
Ooh,
Well, that's really helped you.
I've got a couple. I drop something into the group, or Joe can whiz it
Yeah,
around.
sounds good.
Okay, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
sounds great. Thank you. Thanks.
Steve Morgan asks, how do you measure the success of your digital marketing when the product is not sold digitally? Boom. On most law firm websites, you can't add a product to a basket and buy it. I'm so glad that you asked that, Steve, but I'd love to do an hour with you on attribution modeling. But that is to do with attribution modeling. It's really, really hard. So what you got to do is you say the website has played a role in this and the social media has played a role in this, but how much of the win is down to them? And you have to come to some very difficult agreements with people internally at law firms and say, can I put 10% of the win towards the social media and 25% of it towards the website, as it were, as well. It's a really hard one to get right. That you won't get it wrong. You won't get it right first off. It's very hard to do. Sorry, I can't give you a more specific answer than that. I'm doing a session on social ROI on Thursday, and we're literally talking about that topic for an hour. What are the challenges of setting up a marketing agency, and would you recommend finding a niche and specializing in a specific industry? Yes, I would. The challenges are a loss of sleep, eating poorly, never talking about anything other than your agency. I mean, Lisa, the list goes on, right? What I would do, though, is probably find someone who, if you're in an industry where you do find something interesting, I would go and find a startup in that industry and then grow with them a bit, right? If they're your buddy and they can give you their advice to what they're experiencing and you can support them in their growth, then they're going to forgive you for like being a startup yourself as well. So that's my tip. We did that with Florence, who owns this employment law firm. And she's grown now, she's got 20 lawyers now, but it's taken us 6 years to get her there. And so, Georgia, that allows us to kind of, you know, learn from each other, as it were. And that's been quite a nice relationship as a result of it. What else is down this list? I don't know. Is Jo still on, or I can't see her on my screen, which is why I'm asking. Are you there, Jo?
I am indeed. Yeah.
What do you want to ask out of what remains? I've got loads of time. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm free at 3 o'clock, so I can carry on talking.
I had to leave the call for a sec, so I can't see some of the questions that have been asked.
Okay.
So I'm just going through the chat now. So Izzy's asked, how long do you work with clients and how long is a standard contract?
Oh, what a brilliant question. So there's project work that you just scope and say this is in the project, and then you do that, and that might be, you know, 2 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months. But we also do retain work. We're rebidding for a PR contract at the moment, and that is a 12-month contract. So yeah, and they would be chunky. One of the things that you can do in digital marketing, Jo, and if your guys are freelancers and think about setting up, maybe Mo would consider this as well, is go and look at the salary for that job, right? And then spin it backwards and say, okay, what could we do for that salary? How much of that job could we cover for that? So rather than hiring, you know, their first digital marketing person, what if you and your gang did it together? And if you go and allow for it being at salary plus national insurance plus holiday pay or pension, and then spin it back to them as a retainer. So Mo, I'm just trying to really use an easy example, 24 grand a year, spin it backwards, that's 2 grand a month, ignore the change bit about whatever. And then you say, what can I do for 2 grand a month? You probably cover as much ground as somebody sat in house on their desk doing that for them. And I say to people, you've either got to hire someone or you can use us, and we're much better at this stuff than the junior you're going to get in that role. And when you appoint that junior, you're still going to have to put into place an agency anyway. And Jo, that has been very successful for us. We do that again and again with digital marketers.
Amazing.
The longest client is 6 years. The shortest client is just a few days, I guess.
Wow. So you've retained a client from when you started,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Florence was on day 2, Chris was on day 1, and we were working with him a few weeks ago. He's not working with us at the moment. So it's they interchange between the two of them, first and second clients.
Wow, it's impressive. We've got a couple hands up. Oh, forgive me if I say your name wrong. Is it Mafujul?
Yeah, hi. I have a 3 question to Simon.
Yeah.
First of all, is, as you know, the digital marketing is best marketing thing. Like you have SEO, you have social media, you have a web design, and all those content marketing and everything. So if you approaching let's say lawyer or any roofer or any niche, so which sector are you going to target particularly, or are you going to give all the service as a whole, as a person?
Yeah, I don't believe that anyone digital marketer can be good at the whole of digital marketing. I don't think it's possible. I think it's far too broad a skill set to do it. You know, some people work on social media for Nike, and effectively they're client service people. They're at the front end of the brand, aren't they? And how they interact with people online on social media. If you want to follow someone really interesting on LinkedIn, you should follow a woman called Sami Unrao. I'll put her name in here. Sami Unrao. She's the global head of Nike's social media channels, and that woman, my word, she's absolutely brilliant on LinkedIn. It's not even for work, she just does it to show what a mum at work should be doing. Go and follow her, she's incredible. So look, the answer is, if I'm an agency side, I'd say one person can't do all those things you want them to do, so why don't you get us to do it? And between my gang of people, we will cover off all of your needs, but you won't just be one person doing it. It couldn't be one person doing it. You can't have a graphic designer and a social media expert and somebody who I don't think you can understand Facebook and LinkedIn, not really deeply. You're going to be good on one of those two things.
Yeah, so when you start by your own, as you mentioned, so what sector do you target? You target as a web designer, SEO, or social media marketer?
You've got to just find where the work is and who's going to be willing to pay your rate. So if you're Mo and you set your hourly rate at a certain amount of people, and you find people who you like working with and they're willing to pay that rate, do that work if you want to. But if you want to branch out, so the answer to your question is actually, if Mo wants to branch out and do some different stuff, maybe she's going to drop her rate to do things in a new area and learn something new. I would. So if somebody said to me, Si, will you do something in, SQL? Yeah, I will do. And that will be a third of my hourly rate because I'm learning something new. But if it's something boring that I hate doing every day, I don't know what that would be. I'll charge them twice as much money instead. And I really do vary price based on what I get out of it, Joe. There's a dynamic called value, profit, and joy. Like how much value do you get out of it? How much profit do you get out of it? How much joy do you get out of it? If there's not enough joy in it, then you need to improve your price. You need to send it upwards. If it's the kind of work that you're dealing with a litigator, always charge more money.
And the last question is like, what advice are you gonna give the person who English is not their first language and they want to work with the client as a solo trader or as an agency?
I'm so glad that you asked that. It's such a great question. I think one thing I would advise you not to do is to rely too much on using ChatGPT to make things perfect for you in English. That's a terrible idea. People immediately, they're much more forgiving if somebody's slightly broken English than they are of somebody who's tried to cheat their way to it, like using ChatGPT. So don't do that. That said, I think you should stick to your conversation should be on the screen where you can, but equally follow up with an email and make sure you agree those actions and they sign off on that way. I would use email more than I would do screen work if it's my second language. I used to speak French pretty well. I would never transact in French as a business. I'm all power to you for what you're doing. I think it's very hard for you to do what you're doing in English, but I would use email a lot of the time as well. You've still got to show them your face though, otherwise they don't know who you're buying. Right?
Yeah, understand that. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Vanessa, you've got your hand up as well. Joe, we all right to carry on time-wise? I don't mind, but
I think so. I think we'll just cover Vanessa's question if that's okay. I know that there's a bit of a schedule for the rest of the afternoon. So yeah, Vanessa, you go for it.
Hi, thank you. First of all, Simon, this has been really, really helpful. So thank you so much for the helpful advice. I've learned so much. And my question is, if you are wanting to go into a market that's already heavily saturated, like fashion and media, how exactly do you go about finding a niche in that market?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I think the one thing I found that's a huge point of differentiation at the moment, Vanessa, is the ability to interpret data and make decisions on it. So all of you as digital marketers are going to be producing some form of dashboard or data out of what you do. Did that email get opened or did it not? Did it get read or did it not? Did people get beyond the first 3 sentences or not, right? If you're the kind of person who can do your day job, but actually read a little bit of data as well, and then give people advice on the basis of that data, I genuinely think it's going to be one of the biggest skill sets for the next 10 years. Because AI is not going to do that for you. It's not going to interpret, we did this thing and now we need to change and do this instead, right? That's humans that are going to do that. So yeah, Vanessa, if you went to fashion and you were doing that and said, well, look, it's all very well you doing these things, but actually I've got this really ugly thing over here that gets more reads than your beautiful thing. Why don't we do it that way? Do you know what I mean, Vanessa? I think using data, you can show people really interesting things. And so I'd say it's a huge point of differentiation. The other thing as well is just get out there and network and meet people, because there's only you, there's only one you, right? And Vanessa, if you show some enthusiasm for fashion or media and they really get that in the room, you're going to be unstoppable. People will want to hire you. And, you see those odd Dragon's Den moments where they just go, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'll give you the money. They're going to back you just because they like you. And I think I cannot encourage you enough to go out, be brave, meet people, and then let them fall in love with you, right? It's okay to do that.
Oh my gosh, I wish I'd recorded that so I could set it as my alarm. Thank you.
Joe, I think that's everything, isn't
it? Yeah.
I've added you, Simon, on LinkedIn. Just thought I'd add that.
Wonderful, Julian. Joe, I've downloaded the chat, and what I was thinking of doing, if there's any questions there that I need to answer, I can go back to people. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them, but my LinkedIn DMs are always open. People can ask me questions. So
amazing. Yeah, we'll share. I've already popped your LinkedIn in the chat, but we'll put it in our main Slack channels as well. So if you're happy for people to come over, that'd be great. But no, that was brilliant. Thank you so much, Simon. I think that was been probably one of the most interactive guest speaker sessions we've ever had. That was fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, you've been very generous with your questions, so thank you. It's been wonderful.
You've had a lot of love. It's been nice to see.
All
Some
right,
coffee.
help
You should meet
yourself.
at PM.
Any books that you'd recommend? Just before you
I'm
go?
gonna add them to Joe's email later on.
That's fine.
I
Okay,
think
thank
you
you.
have you've got a fan club, Simon. Everyone in the
Lucky
chat.
me. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks so
Take care of
much.
yourself,
for your
guys.
time.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks, Simon.
Oh, that was amazing, Joel.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good. He, to say, so he ran this event last week. And that was the first time I ever went to London, and I was pooping myself. And it was just fab. He was so welcoming. He's rooting for Basecamp, and he really wants to support. And there's lots of exciting things coming with Simon as well. So I'll keep everyone in the loop for that. But no, I hope everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was
yeah,
really nice.
go follow him. He's very active on LinkedIn. So any advice, any tips, tricks you can get with digital marketing, he's the one to go for.
Perfect. Amazing stuff. All right, guys, what we'll do then is we'll just jump into a quick break. We'll come back at 10 past now. So we'll come back at 25 past. Go into your separate mentor group. So if you're in Dan's group, look out in his Slack channel. If you're in my group, lucky you can just hang on this call. We'll just be using the same Zoom call. But if you're in Dan's group, look out for that one and be back by 25 past 3. I'll see you guys then.
Lovely. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.